Anyway, I think, let's see, am I caught up on, let's see, I'm going to mark up, yeah. I think that's, all right, we're caught up. We're caught up. I'm gonna take this moment. I'm gonna take this chance. We're gonna move on. We're gonna move on to the recap section. So, I have to say, that this weekend has felt so long to me. Like, on Friday, I was like, man, when is the last time I played Pathfinder? Like, it feels like it's been so long since I've done a recap stream. I, like, barely remember what even happened on the Wednesday session of Pathfinder. Like, I'm so... But we're gonna try. I was gonna write notes down. But I have confidence that I'll be fine without them. And that might be very misplaced. So, as you may remember... Sorry, Chad, I'm probably gonna super ignore you for the next 20 minutes. But it might be a short recap. Anyway, as you may remember, we left the party basically staring at the dead body of a councilman. Councilman Brining? No. It was the head of the Merchants Guild. He was... I think you're misplaced in not taking notes. I should take more notes. I should write more notes for doing these recaps, make them just a little bit smoother. We'll probably get there eventually, or I'll just get good enough that I don't need them. But one or the other will definitely happen. Maybe. So the party leaves that place. They've finished investigating the body. They've discovered that the councilman was almost definitely pushed from the balcony that he was standing on and fell to his death, not from his own, like, he didn't crumble under the pressure or anything. He was probably murdered. And the party started this session not by investigating further, but by saying, I don't really think that this is our thing to investigate. I think we are on a time limit. We need to get out. We need to head out over to this island over here where we think Salamander is. We need to go take him out. That is urgent, because whoever takes him out first and brings back his head, they are going to be the new Emperor of Eden. So they prioritize that, which is very understandable, and they will not be taking part in further investigation. But they did have some more stuff to take care of, like the one additional day they had there. First of all, the party has a chest with like an old, like, synthetic automaton in it, a robot basically, like a magical robot, and Ludwig wanted to take that to be kind of appraised, to see if it could be fixed up, see if it was worth anything. So he brought it to test your metal golemry, a golem establishment that used to be quite famous, but after the gods were sealed away, kind of a lot of the automatons were kind of like the magic that powered them kind of, it was basically like an EMP went off and short-circuited and destroyed every golem, every synthetic creature, or every golem that was in existence, basically, at least in this continent. So they were kind of rare here all of a sudden, and a lot of the ore that this golemry used to use, like, kind of went away. Wasn't available, wasn't being mined anymore, couldn't be found. So they kind of went into hibernation as a business, and it's starting up again. They have found a couple of pockets, and they're interested in getting people to mine it for them. There was like a little hook of an adventure here where Ludwig walked in and he was like, hey, can you fix this up? And they're like, well, so it's going to be this much without, like, if we're providing a core, it's going to be like 600, 900, kind of depends on what you want to do with it, what do you want to make out of this automaton. If you provide a core, we will chop that right on down to like 300. Like the ore, this magical ore is the stuff that makes this so expensive. Like the parts, a lot of the parts are here. We just kind of need to hook it all back up, get the mana circuits flowing. But we don't have the ore to make the core, to make it function, to power it. So they're thinking about that a little bit. The party is thinking about maybe we'll figure out a way to get some of this ore. They also gave him a couple of cores that they picked up from the very first session where they were attacked by these sand constructs. They defeated the constructs. Constructs dropped these cores that were similar to the ones needed for their new synthetic buddy. They gave them these cores to investigate. Like last session, the Golemry looked at them. They were like, huh, this is interesting. These cores aren't extremely powerful, but they do kind of allow constructs to be made from just whatever sand is around. And in addition to that, it allows the caster to basically inhabit one of the constructs whenever they want. Like, whoever made the constructs, they can just shoot into one of the sand assassin bodies and control it. That happened during the fight, but they didn't really notice. It's happened... I guess that's the only time they've seen him so far. Bet the sand constructs got you off guard a bit. I remembered they had the cores. I was pretty good with it. It technically caught the players off guard because it was a surprise encounter, but I knew they had, like, saved those cores. But they're kind of depowered. They're not going to be able to be used to, like, power this thing. They're, like, different purposes. But, yeah. Oh, what did they ask? They asked something... They were like, so if we were to, like, put these into new automatons... Like, if we could do that, let's just say, if we charge these again, and we put this in new automatons, like, it would allow that original caster to be able to just take control of whatever, and the guy who owns the Golemry kind of, like, thought about that, and he's like, yeah, I think so. Recharging it wouldn't do anything to get rid of that enchantment. Like, I think you would need to completely disenchant them to prevent that, which, you know, would kind of make them useless, so, yeah. So that finished up there. The party kind of regrouped after that. They talked about, they have one thing they have to take care of left in Eden, and that was the werewolf curse. They said in the session before that they were going to meet up with the cleric of Denala, the old goddess of life. They were going to meet up with him, and he was going to perform a ritual that was going to cure both their party and the villagers that they'd rescued who were also cursed of this curse. So they were brought to this church that we put together last time. And they started the ritual. You can see here, some preparations were made. Basically how I was doing it was just that. More preparations the players made, the easier it was going to be on the villagers that they had there. Like, the easier it was going to be for them to save and not turn into werewolves during this process, during this ritual. Now the party will save the cores till they find something that sucks at magic for profit. Possible. That might be hard to... It's possible. So, what they came up with... Solus did quite a bit. He kind of wrote down a magic circle on the ground around them to help channel the energies of the ritual. He also memorized the words and helped the cleric chant them. What's the cleric's name? Where is he? Lucius? Yeah. So he's going to help chant the words. He rolled very well on, I don't remember what check, but on religion, I guess, to understand the words and recite them. So that gave a -2 to the DC. So it starts at 10. It was down to 9, 7. He rolled like a performance check on top of that. I was like, all right, yeah, that works for me. Down to 6. Sonus provided an incense that the druid they ran into before gave him after he was cursed. That would help him keep the werewolf transformation under bay. Like, kind of help keep the power of, like, the moon shining from overwhelming him. So he placed those incense, lit them, and for, like, the 3 closest people, that was going to give them another -1 on the check. And Manigal helped with the chant, like a chant of his own, basically. And being a druid, this helped him get another -1. So it was like -5 for 4 people, and then 6 for a lot of the others, which was still, like, about a fourth of the people should have transformed, basically. But a lot of the villagers rolled pretty well. Let's see. What exactly happened? So I went around the circle. All of the players saved. A couple of the villagers saved. Manigal saved by a lot. The knight, which I've probably described before as being kind of a jerk, someone the players don't really like. This night they ran into them on their way to Orlane, so this is like a long time ago now. And then he was one of the people that they rescued from the werewolf. He failed. He rolled a 1. He transformed immediately. He did not last at all. So that's perfect. I didn't have to fudge anything to make that happen. That's just how the dice fell. I talked before about how someone failed, like it was definitely going to be him, but I decided against that. I was just like, I'm just going to let the dice fly. It's a little more interesting when I do that, for me, in my opinion. Like, I think more interesting results happen under those circumstances. So, the dice didn't fail me here. The knight failed his roll horribly. He turned into a werewolf. His eyes lit on fire like the other demon werewolf they met. And the next villager over also failed. And they were like looking at them, they were panicking, they failed, they'd rolled like a 4, I think. No, they rolled a 5. So they just barely failed. Solus was able to cast a spell, I think he cast Calm Emotion, and that allowed her to stay calm for quite a while. Another villager rolled 6, and if things got out of hand, he was going to also transform. Like, if he saw someone go down, if anything, like, untoward happened, he was going to be the first one to kind of pop up and start a, like, a kind of a chain reaction. Everyone else rolled pretty well, so those were the most at danger. But the party did a very good job of, like, getting around the knight. By the party, I mean Solus, who was not cursed at all. Kind of, like, cornered him here. Knight was here. And as he turned into a werewolf, Solus was able to, like, ping him down a little bit. Eve stood up, came over, helped out. Rolled really well on her saves every time. So she also avoided turning into a werewolf. I made her roll a flat check every single time she made an attack or was attacked, and she rolled above a 5 every single time. And then eventually rolled a 20, and I was like, okay, you're fine. You don't have to roll it anymore, which was like the last round of combat anyway, so it didn't come into play at all. Sonus just chilled, was like, I don't really want to turn into a werewolf. Oh, it was as Eve stood up and started approaching, Eve was like, Sonus, just if I turn into a werewolf, don't let them kill me. Which I thought was great. Everyone's a little wary of Solus right now, who's been extremely pragmatic and hasn't been, like, he initially was going to feed the wolf's bane to literally all of the villagers. He was okay with that plan. That probably would have killed everyone. So everyone's a little bit scared of him in terms of werewolf curses. And he was trying to make Ludwig come and, like, cleanse his curse. Ludwig did show up as, like, backup. He stayed off to the side. He was like, I'm not getting in that circle. I'm not getting anywhere close to this ritual, but, like, I will throw bombs and help as best I can. So he did that to avoid having his curse removed. He wants to keep the curse so he can study it, so he can maybe figure out a way to use it to, like, extend goblin lifespan. Still sounds like a fun bag for the Wolfgang. Yeah, he's like anyone who is against Eden or, like, not great for the health of Eden. Solus is probably a little scary to or for them. So, yeah, it's interesting. It's an interesting dynamic. He's like the biggest, he's the most likely, even though he's kind of the kindest character to normal people, but then kind of the scariest for everyone else. So that's interesting to deal with and work with. I like it a lot. Combat finished pretty well. Again, they cornered the werewolf, kept him down. Eve saved well. They beat down the werewolf. They did a lot of non-lethal. That's the word I'm looking for. Did a lot of non-lethal damage to him so they could, like, knock him out, have him finish the transformation. And yeah, they were successful at that. They also succeeded in keeping the other villager chilled out until they finished the fight. And everything went pretty smoothly. I think this fight turned out pretty easy, and I'm trying to figure out if that's a problem, and I don't really think it is. I think, like, good preparation is fine, but I've maybe over-rewarded good preparation in this campaign, perhaps. Can you do that? I don't know. This is just the kind of players that I have. I don't know if I should throw more challenges in. I don't know. You know, like more complications. But this could have spiraled out of control pretty quick. Like if he was able to, he did at one point try to attack Manigol when he was able to get away with it, and like Manigol just saved well. He has good saves. Like if two people had transformed and it wasn't just one werewolf that they could easily contain, two people had transformed and they started attacking other villagers and they started freaking out. They started transforming from like falling into the throes of combat and having their blood boil. Like they could have been in a situation really fast. Like I wasn't gonna sugarcoat these werewolves. This guy had full 63 health, full stats. Yeah. So I think it was fine. I think it's fine that it went smoothly and could have gone disastrously. Like if you set up enough situations like that, eventually something will go disastrously. So it's totally fine. We can talk about that a little later in the planning section. But yeah, I think you can over war preparation. I think I agree with that. Then again, I'm a patron to the party using all their resources and then they see the boss. That's true. Yeah, this wasn't really even, you know, this wasn't, it was supposed to be a potentially disastrous encounter that was more or less just a story beat otherwise. Like they had an almost disastrous encounter with werewolves. This was the follow-up to that. And they were being extremely cautious, and they did a lot to help the rolls. Solus did a lot to help the rolls. Everyone else was like, eh. So, thanks Solus, basically, for the fact that this went so smoothly. He provided a total of -4 with his preparation. Since he was a bard, and he could, like, yeah, I don't know. Yep, it was good. Yeah, yep. And I was going to let the dice fall where they did. And they fell kindly for the most part. So, yeah. I think the only thing I might have changed, which again could have amplified the way it could have gone horribly, is like if someone rolls a -1 and they like let out a wolf howl, maybe that increases the DC for everyone who rolled after. I think that would have been cool. So like both of these villagers would have failed. And then, you know, maybe they wouldn't have had the resources to save both of them from their transformation, especially with Ludwig hanging out on the side. I think that's the only thing I would have changed, because like it would have been very easy for players to turn into werewolves. It would have been very easy for werewolves to trigger other werewolves standing up. So yeah. All in all, I liked the encounter, and I liked. I feel like maybe okay. Let's roll back a little bit. I think what I could have changed is to make it more tense for the players somehow. I think that would have been best. Finding a way to ratchet up the tension for the players in the same situation, to hint at more future badness instead of just, if something happens, spring it on them. That's the other thing I could have done. Is just like make them not feel like, oh, well, this went smoothly. Make them feel like they dodged a bullet, you know? So maybe that's something I can work on. I think that's probably the key to this encounter and why I'm a little bit back and forth on it in terms of my thoughts. Yeah. Making it more tense is a yes. Yeah. Yeah, I think that's good. That's good. So I'll think on that when I'm like designing encounters like this in the future, which like I don't think I've ever done anything quite like this before. This is the first snowball-y situation like this. So it's probably why I was a little like extra cautious. That's really it. Like, okay. So we then went back to the world map. It was like half an hour to end time. And I was like, do you guys want to leave right now, or do you just kind of want to talk about what's coming? Like what the party's doing next? Is that what you would like to do? Because like if we leave right now, we're just gonna get to the first camp and like that's it. Yeah, fun fact, you do not look stuff up while raising tension. That's the time to wing it. I super agree with that. If you're trying to ratchet up tension, you don't go look stuff up. You don't go open a rule book. You just kind of make decisions right there. I didn't go look anything up at that point, so yeah, you know. I think the tension that was there, I did a good job of keeping it up. I did a good job of pushing turn orders forward, and I hinted at some future badness. Yeah. So, players went back to Eden. They slept. They talked about where they were going. I asked them, like, hey, which way are you headed? Because it's going to make my job easier if I know. And they're like, all right, well, where's the Harpies? They're like potential allies. We probably want to get them first. And they pointed out that this was over here. And I was like, yes, perfect. They're heading the way where I have prepared. And then Solus was like measuring it out, figuring out the time distance to like get their various directions. And he was like, that almost doubles our travel time. That's a big triangle. I don't know if we have time for that. I don't know. And so the party started to switch their idea from like going here to rushing over and dealing with Salamander right away because they don't think they have time to prepare. Like now that Eve's made it kind of a shit show rat race, Solus is like, we don't have time to go get allies. We don't have time to take this slow. We need to get there before some other jackass does and like gets lucky with an arrow, right? Or like a crossbow bolts or whatever. And there was like one moment in that where I was like, I mostly just let them talk it out. And then there was one moment where I was like, they were disagreeing a little bit, and I wanted to see if I could shake up their thoughts. And I think I fell to the temptation of like edging them the way that I had prepared. Like, you know, a little bit, like inserting my bias of which way they should go. And I tried really hard not to do that. And even when I said this, I tried hard not to do that. I was just like, you know, it's like, it's going to take a while to get over there. They're fighting a god. Like, anyone who rushes in, any other random group, like less experienced, less god-killy group who rushes in, they're probably going to have a hard time. And like, that's all I said. Like in response to something someone else said. And then I was just like, nope, wait, that's bad. I'm going to shut up. I'm not going to influence this decision at all. But they still ultimately, they were like, nah, Brass is headed that way. Brass is scary. We think he's more prepared than us and ready to do this right away. So we're going to try to sneak in ahead of him. So we're going to go this way. With the only bit of caution there being Solus is like, I don't know though. They called it the Simmering Island. Like if that lake is boiling, that's a problem. I don't know how we're going to deal with that. We don't really have, but I'm not really going to think about it until we get there. So that's the situation. That's what we left on is like, we're going this way. Maybe we'll have a boiling lake to deal with. So those are the current thoughts. They will be heading out probably to Green Rock Hill first. And from there, they will be heading to the Simmering Island. Think you can reward not being cautious as well? I think so. Like, if they're successful in not being cautious, certainly there will be rewards. Like, I think they will, if they manage to get there, cut off Salamander's head and return, like, they're, you know, that's going to give them advantages. If they succeed at that and return to Eden, like, no one's going to be looking for Salamander yet. Like, they won't have any trouble getting back, you know, probably ahead of the news, like, that Salamander died. Like, there will be great advantages for the players if they do that. So, yeah. I'm not going to punish them beyond making it a hard encounter. So, if they find other ways to prepare on the way there, that's great. Otherwise, we'll see. It's gonna be rough. Salamander is not gonna be a pushover, unlike Explicatica. Found out I was saying that name wrong the entire time. There are two C's. It's not Explicita. It's Explicatica. Which I think is a terrible name. But hey, D&D. Anyway. So, that's basically a recap of the last session. Next session, they will start heading out this way. I've already rolled some encounters for it. And we can talk about where they're headed and how to prepare after a break. Yeah, no, I like the first version. Without the second C, I agree. I'm just going to keep, in my canon, it's just Explicita. We're just going to deal with that. Because Explicatica is really hard to say, and I had to practice to be able to say it for this stream, like, a lot. So, keeping it Explicita. So I'm going to take a quick break, as usual, and then we will go ahead and jump over to the preparation section. So I will see you guys momentarily for that.